Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Warhammer Summer. Our next game on the list, we've just done Space Marine, is going to be Warhammer Dawn of War 1, 2004. We're going back. I did not know it was an RTS, and I have been itching. I was talking about it literally a few weeks ago as how much I miss a good classic old school base building RTS. Command & Conquer is what I grew up with. I played them all. I played the original. I actually got the original in a pirated copy when I was, I don't know, 10, 11 maybe, something like that. I didn't know that game had cutscenes because the copy I had no cutscenes. It was just gameplay, and I was still in love with it. I've played Command & Conquer, Tiberian Sun, Red Alert 2, Red Alert 3. I've played them all, right? Even Renegade, which I'm not a huge fan of Renegade, but people love Renegade. I wasn't a huge fan. I played all of that franchise. Generals, Zero Hour, oh, so much fun. And then that genre kind of died off. I'm not sure what killed it. I think StarCraft 2 may have been involved, is like people were hoping StarCraft 2 would reinvigorate that genre. StarCraft 2 did very, very well, but the esport element was like forefront to the game, you know? And they were really pushing the esport element to make it work. And I think people were like, I like PvE RTS. Now, it's not because I'm a coward or anything, but in PvP, you have to be so constantly spamming and build orders and things like that and making use of every resource down to, like, you should be going up to, like, just the bare amount down to 2 while still flooding the resources, and you've got to play, like, it's a very intense experience. I'm looking to, like, design a cool base, mess around with my units a little bit, like, maybe take inefficient groups because I prefer them. You know, that kind of approach is what I enjoy, which you can do in the PvE campaigns. That's what I'm looking for my RTS. And this turned into an RTS. I was amazed. Some teething problems with this one, but before we get to that, I do want to mention, I've mentioned it in a couple of TDPs, we're currently working with the British Heart Foundation. They're fantastic people who are just, this is global, this is worldwide, even though they are the British Heart Foundation, of just teaching people how to do CPR. It's this QR code here. You'll do a two-minute tutorial on CPR. You can have fun with it. Your phone will work with you. It's got sound and audio and videos and things like that. Teach you how to save a life. This has already affected our community. We've had someone save a life in our community. 2 minutes. Go ahead and do it. And everybody who does it at the end of the month, we're not being paid by them to announce this, but they're going to give us a gifted sub at the end for everybody who takes part. So the more people who just spend a couple of minutes doing this and refreshing your knowledge worldwide on CPR, then we'll get something at the back end, and you'll get a free... Maybe if you're one of our Twitch viewers who can't afford a subscription, you'll get a gifted sub out of it if it lands on you. Gifted subs are random, but they are based on our followers and things. So, well worth it. A great deal, just spreading awareness. More people do it, we get a benefit, and of course, you guys get a huge benefit as well of learning how to save a life. So, well worth it. All right, so, teething problems. This game is from 2004, baby. That predates a lot of the tech we have these days, including resolutions. I had a nightmare with this, so the video might look a bit iffy for now. I did fix it later. Certainly, I play on 2K. I find that perfect for a nice big screen, looks crystal clear, huge refresh rates, and looks fine on stream without pushing anything to 4K and maybe having some, you know, frame drops and things like that. Does not support that. In fact, it was awkward. So the first thing I did was Google it. Went on, saw a Reddit thread, and then someone on the Steam community had got some sort of patch which changed it to 1920 by 1080p. Okay, 1080p. I got a relatively large monitor. Didn't look great, and people were like, ugh. But fixed it later with the ultimate science of going into the config file and just typing in my resolution, and it worked perfectly and looks fantastic. So... all these people hackermans in, it's like you just type in your resolution and it's fine, and it worked totally fine. So yeah, managed to solve that issue. Thumbs up. Really good. Let's talk about why I was excited about this. 2 reasons. Storytelling in RTS is actually really good. I think they do it's a good medium for telling story, because often the story is at the beginning, at the end of the at the mission. So some setup for the mission, and then the story, like plot cutscene advancement, will be at the end of the mission. However, throughout the mission, you're kind of telling your own story. It's like an RPG in a way, in a better way than a lot of the more linear RPGs we've seen over the last few years. Is the way you battle through it and the units you grow attached to and the stories they develop. We've already got named units. We've got Tommy, who's our Dreadnought. Tommy was the free Dreadnought we got. I never built any more, but Tommy survived to the end of the mission. Just Tommy was on form. But then we added Bobby to the team, and Bobby is the Hellfire Dreadnought. So Tommy and Bobby, when they're leading the charge, are in great shape. Really good shape. And with RTS, you can have these surreal moments when you hit certain checkpoints where something happens. Something weird. Once again, we are taking on the role of the Space Marines with Angelos. Gotta say, even for 20 years ago, the voice acting in this game, even though it's recorded in obviously a lower quality than you would expect these days, is phenomenal. So good. There's a depth and a grittiness and a gravel, but at the same time, there's kind of this pompousness that you do associate with Warhammer. And one of the comments we had is like, Warhammer is so British. Only the British would come up with this dark, grimdark universe for the most part. Yeah, kind of true. We like this kind of stuff. Kind of true. But the voice acting overall, absolutely top tier. There's occasionally somebody who's doing like a guardsman role, you know, some sort of like C tier character that's a little weaker, but the actual main characters, the librarian is top tier, as is the Inquisitor who will be joining us here. So what's the story? We're investigating a planet Tartarus. Tartarus has got an orc problem, and the people have been pulled back, and we land as Angelos and immediately take charge, and already establishes like there's cowardice amongst the local guardsmen that needs to be resolved by their local leader. And he's like, don't worry, you guys are coward, and you're not doing, your strategy is wrong. And Angelos is very big on the strategy of the situation and people making unwise decisions to deal with things. But the best thing so far in the story that I didn't even realize what was going on at first, because it doesn't come across that way, is we keep seeing Chaos arrive as this ghostly sort of Obi-Wan Kenobi figure, whispering in the ear of the librarian. So I was like, oh, the librarian is an agent of Chaos, right? And they're not. It's the representation that we find out a couple of missions later of what Chaos is like, constantly whispering in your ear, constantly telling you things. Sometimes the truth, sometimes not. Sometimes maybe just manipulating you, right? So when the librarian has thoughts that conflict with Angelos, sometimes Chaos will be like, you know, you need to acquiesce to his decisions. You need to do this and that. And that's true. You do need to do that. But are you doing it because you wanted to do that? Or are you doing it because Chaos told you to do that? And I was like, oh, he's not an agent of Chaos, because he the librarian says to him, like, I will find you and we will kill you. Like, just it's a Chaos. He just lets him know. He's like, I will find you and we will kill you and you will not win. So he's aware of this is what it's like with Chaos, constantly whispering. I was like, oh, wow, he's not an agent of Chaos. He's just dealing with this situation. And he has to deal with this all the time because of his psychic energies. And I think that's amazing. And it comes across so well. And you get this nice dawning on you moment of like, oh, that's what it's like. And it keeps repeating it. It keeps letting you know. But Tartarus holds a secret. And this is what's cool about RTS storytelling. Units are great, by the way. Really enjoy it. I love how... I'm just loving squads of Space Marines right now. Mixed out with like a combination of rocket launchers, plasma launchers, and things like that. That are wrecking buildings and fighting the big orcish stuff. The orcs look fantastic. Like... their power plants are called Big Power and Biggerer Power. Like, they've really leaned into it. And their guard towers are called Warg Towers, because they're just going for Warg all the time. And their tanks are called, like, Killer Cans. Stuff like that, right? Really fun. And working through them and enjoying the mission. Still getting kind of used to these antiquated controls. There's a lot of quality of life stuff that we would experience in something like StarCraft 2 that doesn't exist here. Certainly with AI pathing, it's been frustrating me no end. Is the AI is programmed. If one member of the team can attack the target, then they'll just stop instead of all joining in. But if you've got rocket launcher guys in which have an exceptional range, then half your units will just stand AFK, even when there's like enemies clearly just to be murdered and butchered. So I'm still figuring that kind of stuff out. So it's one of those things. But it's the story that's grabbing me more than anything, because the Eldar have showed up. It was the final mission I did yesterday. Is the I could see them on the sort of like ridge line during a cutscene. I was like, there's somebody over there, like a ghostly figure. I think that's Chaos, and then it turned out to be an Eldar, who are very much like Protoss. And of course, people will point out, it's like, well, StarCraft originally was a Warhammer game. That was the whole point, and then it deviated off into something else. So they work like the Protoss warping in. And I was like, oh, okay. And now the Eldar... Because I'm trying to figure out what could be in Tartarus, because they're all looking for something in Tartarus. Chaos is here, the Orcs are here, and now the Eldar are here to find something in Tartarus. And of course, the name Tartarus isn't lost on me. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I wonder, and I was posing theories, right? And I was like, I wonder if it's like those databases that the Imperium is constantly looking for that are more valuable than anything in the universe. I think called STBs, STCs, something like that. That could, because they potentially contain technological blueprints and manufacturing instructions for old tech, which they still use. And then it became apparent is like, this kind of predates a lot of the lore that you've seen in watching like Lewison's videos and things like that on the Warhammer lore, because this is 20 years old and there's a lot of relatively recent lore. So there was arguments then breaking out. I was like, no, they were established a long time ago and they could be that, but then the Eldar wouldn't be looking for those. So it's really up in the air, and I'm kind of dealing with this pre-modern lore situation. So how that develops out is going to be really interesting to me. But so far, it's really fun. I'm looking forward to it. The storytelling, and I'm always amazed by how creative devs had to be in the past, because they couldn't make big cinematic cutscenes and they were just dealing with these old Warcraft 3 style models, but still make it work by just getting the camera panned low, have it stroke across, have this guy run up at this right time. And it was something I spoke to Morgan Day at Blizzard about. There's a very famous cutscene in Mists of Pandaria where it took your character, it was the first time we kind of seen it in the World of Warcraft universe, where the camera pans around and shows your character doing sort of a Rocky training montage. And it was Morgan that made it. And Morgan was like, yeah, so I just had a floating camera, and I was like, how can I make this cool? And he had to lean on what the old RTSs did, of like just panning cameras, making it go the right way, but it's in game, right? It's actually physically just the game. They've just taken control of your camera for a minute to give atmosphere, to give depth, to give gravitas to the scene, and make the facials, as limited as they are, mean something. Maybe just have the character turn around so it's talking to the back. I'm always impressed by this stuff. So even going back to this old gameplay, it still is uncovering these wonderful technologies and tips and tricks the guys used for all those years. So that's where we're up to. Dawn of War 1. There's a ton of expansions. I don't know if we'll go down that road. We shall see. Obviously, Dawn of War 2 will be on the menu as well. I know many of you keep asking, like, what else is part of this Warhammer summer? That is actually going to be somewhat left up to my live audience, but more on that in the future. All right? I'll see you again. Bye, guys.